My hands trembled as I tied Ethan's shoelaces for the third time that morning. He was 8 years old, but certain tasks still overwhelmed him. His fingers would fumble, and frustration would build until he'd melt down. So I did it for him, not because I thought he couldn't learn, but because today was already stressful enough. "Dad, why are your hands shaking?" Ethan asked, his bright blue eyes studying me with that intense focus he reserved for things that genuinely puzzled him. I forced a smile. "Just nervous, buddy. Remember what I told you? We're meeting someone for lunch today. The lady from the internet," he said matter-of-factly, then returned his attention to the toy dinosaur in his lap, making it walk across his knee in that repetitive pattern he found comforting. "That's right. And remember what we practiced. Use my indoor voice. No spinning. Ask before I touch things." He recited the rules without looking up, his voice flat, but his comprehension clear. My sister Rachel had set up this blind date with someone from her office, a woman named Jessica, who apparently loved hiking and Italian food. Rachel meant well, but she didn't understand how difficult dating was for single fathers. Add autism into the equation, and most women ran for the hills before the appetizers arrived. I've been upfront with Jessica via text. I have an 8-year-old son with autism. He's part of the package. If that's a problem, I understand. Her response had seemed encouraging. Everyone has their challenges. "I'd love to meet you both." But as we walked into the upscale cafe Rachel had suggested, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place where a salad cost $20, I felt my anxiety spike. This wasn't kid-friendly. This was where professionals had power lunches and discussed quarterly earnings. I spotted Jessica immediately. She was exactly as Rachel described, blonde, polished, sitting ramrod straight in a chair near the window. Her eyes flicked from her phone to us, and I saw the moment recognition hit. Her expression shifted just slightly, but I'd learned to read these micro-reactions. Discomfort, disappointment. I said, approaching with Ethan's hand in mine. "You must be Jessica. I'm David, and this is Ethan." She stood, offering a handshake that lasted exactly 1 second. "Hello." Ethan didn't make eye contact, his gaze fixed on the hanging plants near the window. "There are 17 plants," he announced, "but 3 are dying. They need more water." Jessica's smile was tight. "That's observant." We sat down, and immediately I could feel the tension radiating from her. She kept glancing at nearby tables, as if worried someone might see her with us. When the waiter came, she ordered a salad, quick, efficient, already planning her exit. I ordered pasta for Ethan and a sandwich for myself, trying to make conversation. "Rachel tells me you work in marketing?" "Corporate strategy," she corrected, her tone clipped. "It's very demanding." "I'm sure. I'm in software development, so I understand long hours." She barely acknowledged this, her attention drifting as Ethan began lining up sugar packets by color. It was a self-soothing behavior, harmless, but I saw her jaw tighten. "Does he always do that?" she asked, not quite whispering, but clearly wanting the conversation to be private. "Sometimes. It helps him process new environments, right?" She took a long sip of water, then set her glass down with deliberate precision. "Look, David, I'm going to be honest." Before she could finish, Ethan's hand accidentally knocked over his water glass. It wasn't full, but liquid spread across the white tablecloth, and Ethan's face immediately crumpled. He hated messes, hated accidents, hated feeling like he'd done something wrong. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, grabbing napkins and dabbing at the spill. "It's okay, buddy. Accidents happen." But Ethan was already beginning to rock, a sign that he was getting overwhelmed. I'm sorry, I'm sorry," he whispered, the words coming faster and faster. Jessica pushed her chair back, standing abruptly. The sound scraped against the floor, drawing attention from nearby tables. Several heads turned our way. "This was a mistake," she said, loud enough that people definitely heard. "I didn't sign up for this." The room seemed to go quiet. Or maybe that was just my perception as shame flooded through me. "I'm sorry," I said, standing as well, trying to keep my voice level. "What exactly did you sign up for?" She grabbed her purse, her face flushed with anger or embarrassment. I couldn't tell which. "I thought I was meeting a normal guy for a normal date. I didn't expect to babysit a..." She paused, searching for words, a child with problems. The words hit like a physical blow. I felt my face burn. He's my son, I said quietly, dangerously. And he's not a problem. Well, he's certainly not my problem, she snapped. You should have been clearer about what you were bringing to this date. This is beyond what I'm willing to deal with. Several people were staring now. One woman at a nearby table had her phone out, and I had the horrifying realization that she might be recording. This was going to be all over social media by tonight. Another viral moment of public humiliation. Ethan was still rocking, still whispering apologies, and all I wanted was to get him out of here. To protect him from hearing these words, even though I knew he'd probably remember every syllable with that perfect recall of his. Jessica, I started, trying once more to salvage something from this disaster. I told you about Ethan. You said. I said everyone has challenges, she interrupted, her voice rising. I didn't realize the challenge was this severe. Look at him. He can't even function in public without causing a scene. The shame was suffocating now. Not shame for Ethan, never for Ethan, but shame that I'd subjected him to this. That I'd thought maybe, just maybe, someone could see past the autism to the incredible kid underneath. I was about to respond, to defend my son, to tell this woman exactly where she could shove her judgment, when a voice cut through the tension. Excuse me. The voice was calm, authoritative, with a hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. Korean, maybe? Everyone, Jessica, me, the gawking diners, turned toward the source. A woman stood beside our table. She was probably in her early 40s, dressed in an elegant charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and her presence commanded immediate attention. There was something about her, a quiet power, the kind you couldn't buy or fake. May I sit down? She asked, looking directly at me. I was too stunned to respond immediately. Jessica recovered first. This is a private conversation, she said coldly. The woman turned to Jessica with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I don't believe you'll be staying, so privacy won't be an issue. There was steel beneath those words. Jessica's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Who do you think you are? Sujin Park. The woman said simply, as if the name should mean something. It did. Even I, who barely followed business news, knew that name. Park Soo-jin was the CEO of Zenith Enterprises, a tech conglomerate worth billions. She'd been on the cover of Forbes, Time, Fortune. She was practically royalty in the business world. Jessica's face went pale. Ms. Park, you were just leaving, Soo-jin said, not unkindly, but with absolute finality. I suggest you do so before I have my lawyers reach out to discuss your very public display of discrimination against a child with special needs. The threat hung in the air. Jessica grabbed her coat. Her earlier bravado completely evaporated. She didn't say another word, just hurried toward the exit, nearly knocking over a server in her haste. The restaurant's atmosphere shifted immediately. Where before people had been watching our humiliation with voyeuristic interest, now they looked away, suddenly fascinated by their own meals. Soo-jin pulled out Jessica's abandoned chair and sat down gracefully. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled at Ethan, who had stopped rocking and was staring at her with wide eyes. Hello, she said gently. My name is Soo-jin. What's your name? Ethan looked at me for permission. I nodded, still trying to process what was happening. Ethan, he said quietly. I spilled water. I didn't mean to. Of course you didn't, Soo-jin said. I spill things all the time. Just yesterday, I knocked over an entire cup of coffee in a very important meeting. It went everywhere. She leaned in conspiratorially. The CEO of Samsung was not pleased. Ethan's eyes widened. Really? Really? These things happen to everyone. She turned to me then, her expression softening. I apologized for the intrusion, but I couldn't help overhearing. That woman's behavior was inexcusable. I found my voice finally. Ms. Park, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Please call me Soo-jin. And yes, I did. She glanced at the curious onlookers who were trying very hard to pretend they weren't listening. I have a nephew with autism. He's 15 now, brilliant with computers, but struggles with social situations. When I heard that woman's words, her jaw tightened. Well, Let's just say I've heard similar comments directed at my nephew, and I will not tolerate that kind of ignorance. Not anywhere, but especially not in public. A waiter appeared, clearly nervous about having a billionaire at the table. Ms. Park, can I get you anything? Yes. Whatever they ordered, and also the chef special for all three of us. And something chocolate for dessert. She looked at Ethan. Do you like chocolate? He nodded enthusiastically. Chocolate is my third favorite food. What are the first two? She asked with genuine interest. Mac and cheese and chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. Sujin laughed. A real laugh, warm and unguarded. Excellent choices. Nutritionists everywhere might disagree, but as the waiter scurried away, I finally managed to collect myself enough to speak properly. Ms. Park, Sujin, I don't know what to say. This is incredibly kind, but you don't have to. I know I don't have to, she interrupted gently. I want to. Do you know how rare it is for someone in my position to have a genuine conversation? Everyone wants something from me. Investors, employees, journalists. But here, right now, I'm just a person having lunch. If you'll allow it. There was something vulnerable in her expression, something that reminded me that beneath the designer suit and the billions in the bank, she was human. Lonely, maybe. We'd be honored, I said, and meant it. The food arrived, and to my amazement, lunch transformed from a nightmare into something wonderful. Sujin asked Ethan about his interests, and he told her about dinosaurs, specifically theropods, in exhaustive detail. Most people's eyes glazed over after 30 seconds of Ethan's paleontology lectures, but Sujin listened attentively, asked follow-up questions, even shared that she'd visited a dinosaur museum in Mongolia. They have a complete Tarbosaurus skeleton, she told Ethan. It's a relative of the T-Rex. His eyes lit up. Tarbosaurus batar. They lived in Asia during the late Cretaceous period. Did you know they had binocular vision? That's rare for theropods. I didn't know that, Sujin said, sounding genuinely fascinated. You're quite the expert. I watched this interaction with something close to awe. This woman, this billionaire CEO, was treating my son like he mattered. Not with pity or forced patience, but with real interest and respect. When Ethan excused himself to use the bathroom, a victory in itself, he was getting better at recognizing his own needs. Sujin turned to me. You're a good father, she said simply. The compliment caught me off guard. I'm just doing my best. That's all any of us can do. She took a sip of her tea. May I ask you something personal? After what you just did for us, ask anything. Why were you on that blind date? You don't seem like someone who needs help meeting people. I laughed, but it came out bitter. You'd be surprised. Single father with an autistic son? Not exactly what most women are looking for. My sister set it up, thought maybe Jessica would be different. Clearly, she wasn't. Then Jessica is a fool. Sujin's tone was matter-of-fact, like she was stating a simple truth. Your son is delightful. Different, yes, but delightful. And the way you care for him, anticipate his needs, advocate for him, that shows character. Real character. He's my son. It's not a choice. Isn't it? She countered. I've met plenty of parents who have children with special needs and choose to hide them away, to be embarrassed by them. You brought Ethan to a date because he's part of your life, and you weren't willing to pretend otherwise. That takes courage. I felt emotion clog my throat. When was the last time someone had said something like that to me? When had someone seen Ethan, really seen him, as more than a burden or a problem to be managed? Thank you, I managed. Sujin pulled out a business card, elegant and simple, with just her name and a phone number embossed in silver. I'd like to stay in touch, if you're amenable. My nephew's mother, my sister, struggles sometimes with resources and support. I think it might be helpful for us to connect, perhaps share experiences. I took the card, running my thumb over the expensive paper. I'd like that. There's something else, Sujin said, her tone shifting to something more businesslike. I heard you mention you work in software development. What exactly do you do? I'm a senior developer for a mid-sized firm. We do mostly contract work, building apps, website backends, that sort of thing. Are you happy there? The question surprised me. It's fine. The pay is decent, and they're flexible about my schedule, which is crucial with Ethan. Why? Zenith is expanding our accessibility division. We're developing technologies to help people with various disabilities, autism included. We need developers who understand these challenges not just technically, but personally. People who have lived experience. My heart started beating faster. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity to interview, she corrected with a small smile. I don't make hiring decisions on a whim, but I do recognize talent and passion when I see it. If you're interested, send me your resume. No pressure, no obligation. Just an opportunity. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like me. We got humiliated in cafes and went home to cry in the shower after Ethan went to bed. We didn't get job offers from billionaires. Yes. Yes, I'm interested. Very interested. Good. She glanced toward the bathroom. He's been gone a few minutes. Should we check on him? I stood immediately, that familiar parental anxiety spiking. He usually does okay, but new places can be challenging. We found Ethan by the bathroom, looking at a large abstract painting on the wall. He was studying it intently, his head tilted. Everything okay, buddy? I asked. This painting, he said, pointing. It's crooked, by 3 degrees. It's bothering me. Sujin laughed. You have a good eye. It has been bothering me too every time I visit this restaurant. As we returned to the table for dessert, a decadent chocolate lava cake that had Ethan practically vibrating with excitement, I realized something profound had shifted. This morning, I'd walked into this cafe feeling ashamed, worried, prepared for rejection. Now, I was sitting with a woman who saw value in us, who saw Ethan not as a burden, but as a person worth knowing. Can I ask you something? I said to Sujin as Ethan devoured his cake with impressive focus. Of course. Why did you really come over? You could have just left or complained to management about Jessica. Why get involved? She was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. My nephew once told me that the hardest part about autism isn't the autism itself. It's how other people treat you because of it. He said he wished people would see him first, the diagnosis second. She met my eyes. When I saw that woman treating your son like a problem to be avoided, I saw my nephew. I saw all the times people have made him feel less than. And I couldn't walk away. Your nephew is lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. He's taught me more about resilience and perspective than any business school ever could. She smiled at Ethan, who was now carefully arranging his spoon parallel to his fork. You're doing well, Ethan. Your father should be proud. Dad's the best, Ethan said without looking up, stating it as simple fact. My throat tightened. On paper, this had been a disaster. The blind date had imploded spectacularly. We'd been humiliated publicly, and I'd nearly broken down in a crowded restaurant. But somehow, impossibly, it had transformed into something else entirely. As we said our goodbyes, Sujin insisting on covering the entire bill, she touched my arm lightly. David, remember this. Anyone who can't see the value in you and your son isn't worth your time. You're a package deal, and that's not a flaw. It's a feature. Don't ever let anyone make you believe otherwise. Walking out of that cafe with Ethan's hand in mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, tangible hope that maybe we weren't going to spend our lives on the margins. That maybe there were people out there, good people, who could see past labels and diagnoses to the humans underneath. 3 months later, I started at Zenith Enterprises. 6 months after that, Sujin and I went on our first real date. Without Ethan, but with her blessing and understanding that he was always going to be part of the equation. And you know what? She'd smile and say, I wouldn't have it any other way. Because the right person doesn't just tolerate your reality, they embrace it. And that makes all the difference.